G'day guys, welcome to another episode of Around the Fire, where we answer the questions you guys put up on YouTube or our Facebook page. This is Friday afternoon, so we always like to do them on a Friday, so we're in a good mood. So what I'll do is I'll hand it over to Nick and she can start drilling me with these questions.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Hi everybody. Our first question is from Chris Belford, and he has said, nice video. Can you get the whole range of timeless fencing in Australia?
So I'm assuming Chris has seen a few of the timeless fencing videos that we've done. I'm the authorised reseller in Australia, so I've been the authorised reseller for I think over 12 months now, if I can remember rightly.
So.
But what I've been doing in that 12 months, I haven't got the entire range here, Chris. Like I've been trying to work out, I've got all my property here. I've got all the products I need, the various ranges which I'm going to use to do the other farm. And I haven't got any specific range here for people to buy. I've got limited to the 1 3/4, 5.5 footers. That's all I've got because that's going to be the most popular. And we've had people requesting products. So what I've done now, I know it's going to work in Australia, is the 1.5 inch profile, the 4.5 foot and the 4 foot. So I'll be importing those ones. So they are specifically for your internal fencing, whether you're going to have a 1 strand hot wire to hold your cattle or whether you want to run 2 strands to incorporate sheep as well. So they'll be for your internal paddocks. For the external paddocks or your perimeter or your boundary fences, I'm going to be bringing in the 1 3/4 inch. They're for external fencings or boundaries. And I'm going to be bringing the 5.5 foot and the 6 foot. So they're the 4 products I'll be stocking. I'm going to place an order with Timeless through Brad in the next coming weeks. So I know it takes 6 months to ship over. Yeah. So they will be the products I'll be storing here and I'll be selling to the public. So I'll be bringing 3 pallets of each over, which is roughly 750 per item. So first in best dress basis, and then once they get down to maybe a third remaining, then I'll import more.
Okay.
So, but I can get the entire range. Definitely get the entire range, but it'll just be on a custom order if you want anything different, until such time as things start picking up and I find out there's a market for them, then I'll get more. So I think I've just about answered that question.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll go on to the next question.
Okay. The next one is from Trent Kaepernick, and he has said, thanks for sharing your experiences and knowledge on your regenerative farming path.
You're welcome.
Being in southeast Queensland, I assume you have rat's tail grass. Well, yeah.
Assume not, mate. Yes, we have.
What is interesting, who doesn't actually? What is your view or observations on controlling it? I've heard if it's green and growing, it's good. I find it hard to leave it grow happily and try to keep on top of it by spot spraying. I'd like to start the regenerative way of farming, so have you advice or heard of others controlling rat's tail in a regenerative way? Keep up the good work, mate. I enjoy your channel.
That's one long question. I think we even shortened it as it was.
Yeah, we did. Sorry, Trent, for that. But
so,
yeah, we did.
Yeah, thank you very much, Trent, for actually taking the time to send us that message. It would have taken a while to type out. I'm only a one-finger typist, so it would have taken me quite some time. But good question, mate. And like I said, appreciate the effort you put in for that one, mate. So I'll put effort in back. I will get that broken down into 2 questions. I'll answer the first one first, and then I'll get Nick to remind me on, I think you mentioned the regenerative. There was a bit down here, have you heard of regenerative? Can you just read that? I'd like to, once I did the first, because I won't remember all this. So the first question that I will answer, or the first portion to this question is, there's a few things that stuck in my head. Yes, we have got a rat's tail, like I just said, and I'm pretty sure you would find predominantly everyone would have, but there is an exception, which I'll talk about at the end. You made a comment about if it's green, it's good. Well, definitely not, because if it was dead, it would be dead. That would be better. Green is definitely not good with rat's tail, because I know they say it's not palatable for cattle, but I know when you get to a point when the cows, especially in winter, when they graze down the last little bit of grass or forage, they will go and eat rat's tail. I know it for a fact because I've got some in the paddock where they've eaten the seeds, the stem, right down to, and just leaving the stubble. So I know, people say they don't, they do. When you let it go and there's no pasture to eat, they will go back and eat it. And then you've got issues because then that seed goes through the 4 chambers, digestive chambers, stomachs of the cows, and it will pass out the other end, and it spreads through the manure. So definitely if it's green, it's no good, mate. Dead is always better with any weed. So it does spread, mate, yes. That is definitely a fallacy about if it's green, it's good.
Especially rat's tail.
Yeah, and rat's tail's the worst. So what we do, mate, is similar to what you do. We do spot spray. We go around though. We've noticed in the area you have some professionals come out and try and treat the rat's tails, but we've seen it done outside of a window of 4-wheel drive. They've sprayed it, total foliage spray, and moved on. Now I sort of have got a problem with that because if you don't 100% get all those seeds with spray, it's going to drop to the ground and it's going to regrow. I don't know if you know, but a rat's tail plant can drop 80,000 seeds a square metre per year, which converts to, you guys from the States, a 3-foot square area per year, 80,000 seeds.
Wow.
So, and the seeds live in the ground, can sustain in the ground for up to 10 years. So the way we treat ours is we go around and we cut off the seeds and we bag it. We bag it and then we dispose of it. We take it home and put it in the rubbish bin in a tied bag. So it goes out to landfill, gets covered over with dirt deep down so it hasn't got a chance to germinate. So definitely, mate, you're doing the right thing, but if you're not cutting the seeds head off, start cutting them off, then spray.
Yeah.
So that's the only way to get in control of it. I know there's people out there that say every plant, let it live, it does its job, let it grow, every weed. But I've seen properties, I think I mentioned it before, that as get overtaken with rat's tail grass, and you cannot sell that property. It is one of the worst spreading weeds that I know of, and it will just take over your property if you don't take control of it. Like, I definitely do not like using poisons on this property.
Yeah, I know.
Definitely do not like using it, but if you have a look at the principles of regenerative farming, one of the principles is limit soil disturbance. And that also covers, soil disturbance covers poisons. You're limiting, as long as you are limiting your poisons you use, you're doing the right thing. We started off with 6 poisons that we used to use here on every single weed. We were spraying it before we learned about regenerative farming.
Yeah, I remember that.
We don't like using poisons at all now, but we've cut it down to 2 poisons. One is for rat's tail, and the other is for cat's claw, because that also grows rampant here in the trees along the riverbank, and it actually consumes the tree, smothers it, and it gets that heavy, top heavy, and it folds the tree over on itself. It dies because it's not breathing, and then it collapses, the tree falls over because of the weight of the vine. I've seen vines up to, 4 inches thick. It gets that heavy and just kills the plant, smothers it, and then ends up killing the tree.
Yeah.
So, yeah, mate, don't feel guilty about having to use poisons, but definitely go out and get a selective poison. You don't want to use glyphosate, because glyphosate is broad poison. It will kill everything. Every bit of weed, every bit of pasture within the vicinity that it missed out on will die. A selective, like flupropionate, is a selective for rat's tail. It'll kill the rat's tail, but not any mist or the pasture around it. And definitely get a price. Task Force make one. It's not cheap, so shop around on prices. There are several suppliers or manufacturers of propionate. Just have a look at the brands, mate, and find one that suits you and is in your range, because I know they do get quite expensive. So the second part of that question was...
Oh, yep. I'd like to start the regenerative way of farming. So have you advised or heard of others controlling rat's tail in a regenerative way?
Yep. So I think I've covered that. So don't think by using poison that you're not doing it regeneratively. Remember, the principle states limit disturbance. That doesn't say no disturbance.
Yeah.
You are limiting, if, like I said, we've gone from 6 to 2, we've limited the poison, so we are regenerative. You've got to remember, we are regenerating the land. That's what regenerative farming is. Australia has got some of the worst land in the world for being run down, lack of minerals, being overgrazed, being hot, being dry. We've just about got to deal with everything here in Australia. The heat, the depleted soil. So you're still a regenerative farmer if you're using poison. You're only selectively using spraying those ones you have to. Like, we hand pull 5, and we always will hand pull 5. We're not going to spray those 5. But like I said in other previous videos, mate, use the poisons and don't feel guilty. You're still a regenerative farmer. You're building the land up. You're cutting them back. But over time, when you remineralise the soil through the cow manure, like we're going to use our mineral feeders to get specific minerals out in the land. Once your pastures get better and you're remineralising,
You won't have to.
yeah, you won't. It's going to kill. It's going to have to compete with the pasture, and once you get the depleted soil up to where you want to, and all the minerals you require, the pasture's going to boom that much faster than your weeds. Because remember, Mother Nature's trying to cover itself. The thicker you can get your pastoral grass, Mother Nature won't be popping up weeds. You'll have less weeds and more pasture. So, but I think rat's tails is going to be one of those things. No matter how good you can get your pasture, you're still going to have areas of rat's tail. There'll be less, but you're going to have it. I think it's one of those things we're going to have to live with for the rest of our life, because it does live 10 years in the soil.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
but as long as you're only cutting the seeds and selectively spraying it, it will get less and less. But
yeah.
I think we'll always be treating rat's tail.
Maintaining it.
Yeah, it's more of a
Basically,
maintenance. It's more of a maintenance, not an issue. So I think
Yeah.
I've covered all that question.
I think you covered that one
I think
really
I've overdone
well.
it. I've probably repeated myself a bit, but I hope it all makes sense.
We all know what you're like when you get started, Dave.
So,
Can we go on with the next
we
one?
definitely need to go on, because I'll keep going. I'll just keep repeating the same stuff.
Okay, this is from Swoop01. Was wondering what the delay was in building up stock numbers. Your message is consistent. Soil first, everything else follows.
Yes. Definitely soil first, Swoop. And I hope you got your hat in the stubby cooler.
Oh yeah.
Before this video comes to air, mate, we're going to call you anyway. So Swoop won a competition of ours.
Yeah.
It was him and my brother won the competition of when we reached 500 subscribers. So my brother was the closest, but I didn't want to give it just solely to a family member. So Swoop was next in line. So
yeah.
Hope you got it, mate. I'll give you a call or text you.
Make sure you got it.
Message and make sure you got that, mate. So
Yeah.
yeah, so as for Swoop, why my stock numbers aren't getting up, soil first, you are correct. It definitely is soil first. As you know, part of my property is not fenced. So I'm building up the soil by slashing it, keeping the grass in that vegetative state, laying the carbon down, which then just covers the soil and then holds the moisture. So I am working on my soil, but where the cattle are continual grazing, my dad's reducing his numbers, getting out of them altogether, because mum and dad are of an age where they want to relax. So it's being continual grazed, but I'm still working on the soil. I slash that once a year come winter before the spring rains, because it's got no carbon on the ground to lay that over. So, but definitely I'm not concerned about increasing my stocking numbers, because the most important thing, yes, I'm working on my land, but you don't increase your numbers unless you've got a watering system in place and good fences to hold any livestock. Whether you're doing regenerative, whether you're doing cell grazing, you need good fences and watering systems. So I have got dams, but that's not a regenerative watering system. I'm putting a not a sprinkler system, but a system in place where I'll be using the water from the river, and I'll be holding into a storage tank on the front of my property, and it's going to be gravity fed down to the trough. So when I move the girls in a cell every day. The trough, a small trough, I'd say 100 litre trough, will be going with them, and then it'll gravity feed. So I'm not wasting water. It's only that 100 litres that I'll have to every second day tip out and move on. So, but to put that in place, I've had to have a creek dry out, and to go across the creek, it had to be dry to be able to get a trencher across. Before, now we've got wet. We've had 2 floods in the last 6 months, and it hasn't stopped raining. It's stopped in the last few months, but the creeks, the water's still running out of the ground, so I cannot use the creek. And they're talking about another wet winter, which is almost over, and a wet summer. I forget the term they use.
Oh, yeah, La Nino.
La Nino. So we're expecting another one, which means it's going to be another wet year. So we've given that up. So we're going to go down the driveway here across the creek crossing in the road we use, but that creates another issue in itself, mate. The driveway, every time it rains, it's sand and it washes out. So I'm only putting this under 600 mil under the ground, and it's got 900 down the driveway, but 600 in the paddocks, or 2 foot if you're in the States, or we work out roughly 3 foot down the driveway. But these washouts in the driveway go a metre deep, so that pipe would be exposed. So now I'm looking into, I'm going to have to line up quotes to get the driveway done. So I'm working on that at the moment, and then someone will come in, they'll lay the piping, and then straight after they'll do the driveway, because I don't want it washing out, exposing the pipe. And if I go to cover it up with a tractor and I pierce a hole in it, then I've just upped my watering system up. So yes, so that's why my numbers aren't going back, mate. It's been a struggle, but like I said, I don't really mind, because I'm still working on the paddocks, I'm still working on the pastures, I'm clearing areas, I'm planting, I'm seeding,
and we still get
I'm getting rid of burn piles. So there's still plenty of work to do before my numbers go up. I'm not forced to get my numbers up in a hurry, but it definitely will be getting close by the end of the year, if not early next year. So I want my watering system in my road in hopefully this year, and then I'll stock up next year.
Fingers crossed.
So I think I've covered all that question.
I think you did well and truly again.
So I think we've gone 15 minutes. So did I have another question lined up for tonight?
Yeah, there is one more. Yep, and there is one more from Kevin Jensen.
Yep, okay, we'll quickly do Kev's now. I think it's an easy one.
Okay, glad I came across this video. Oh, thanks. I am currently looking at options on buying a new slasher soon, and only 2 nights ago came across the woods. How do you find it cutting in reverse? My current style of slasher is really good for forward and reverse cutting.
Yep, definitely, mate. I looked around for months and months and months for a slasher.
Yeah.
I looked at the cheaper options, I looked at deer options, I looked at mid-range ones, but predominantly the price didn't worry me. I just wanted a slasher that done the job. I didn't want to buy a cheap one that didn't do what I wanted to do, and I wanted to get something that gave me 300 mil or a foot height, because that's what I want to trim my grass up at, and it had to evenly distribute that across the back. I didn't want to leave one windrow like my old slasher does.
That was important.
So that was the most important thing, 300 mil, but more importantly, evenly distributed across the back. And the Woods does that perfectly in forward. As for reverse, I haven't done much reverse. I do reverse when I come around trees and reverse into them, or if I've got a smaller area left, save, drop a newie, I come reverse. It does work good in reverse. I've noticed though, since the question I've been looking, it does leave a few scraggly bits standing in reverse if you're doing it at the same speed. It's nothing to worry about. Like at the end of the day, it's a paddock.
Yeah.
It's where I'm not doing a bowling green on my lawn at home.
Yeah.
So there's only a few isolated areas. I wouldn't say much, mate. You probably wouldn't even notice it. Your reversing is probably the same as my reversing here. I'm sure yours cuts it forward better than it would reverse. But if I wasn't noticing it before, but if I looked at it once I seen this question, and there are only a few scragglers. Had you not said anything about reverse, I wouldn't have known the difference. So, mate, it cuts in forward and reverse. So I think that's probably it.
Okay, cool. Yep.
We have got another question there, but we won't go into it because I've been looking at my watch and I think that's 20 minutes. We generally don't like going over 15 minutes for the Q&As, for the attention span of not only us, but for you guys at home. So,
and I think the puppies are getting hungry.
yeah, they're telling me, he's on the table now. He's definitely wants us to put his coat on. So, on that note, guys, hope you have a terrific morning, an awesome evening, and a great afternoon, wherever you're watching this video from, guys. And we'll catch you later.
See you later.